Txdot improvement project.
The Monday, December 13th, 2021 regular meeting of the Paris City Council is hereby called to order at 5:30 p.m. For the purposes of this meeting, there is a quorum present. Item number 2, Mr. Gene Anderson will deliver the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Pro Tem Hughes. Please rise.
May we pray? Heavenly Father, first of all, we thank you for all your many blessings, and we praise your name for your goodness and your mercy to us. Father, we want to make special mention for those people in Tennessee and other places, Father, who were so adversely affected by the tornado that came through there. Pray that you would provide for them and comfort them and help them through this difficult time. Father, we likewise pray for our council tonight as they do the business of the city, that you give them wisdom and understanding and help them in all that they do. For we pray and ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Item number 4 is the Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes. Unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meeting Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city council members, or employees, as well as individual personal appeals, are not appropriate for the Citizens Forum. If necessary, the City Council may convene into executive session under Chapter 551 of the Texas Local Government Code regarding any item on this agenda. The public forum is now open. If there's anyone who wishes to address the council, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Seeing none, the Citizens Forum is now closed. Item agenda 4B is an announcement regarding the Kids Read for Free program. Mr. DeGelder, our library director, has an announcement.
It's been a while since I've been here. Thank you for having me. And the announcement is kids read free. Okay? So you may think when you have your free library card and you check something out and you've got a due date, normally that is a free read situation. All right? But I do want to explain something that does happen quite frequently in the library. You have a due date on your books. Libraries have traditionally set a date so you'll bring the items back. Libraries are worried, will you ever bring the items back? Where are our items, right? Someone else wants these items. So we have a due date. What if the items are due one day? So if you've got a couple kids and you have 20 items checked out at the library, if they're due one day, that's $4, all right? So far, that's not read free, okay? What if you have 20 items checked out with your kids and they're due 5 days? Now you owe $20 in fees, okay? Libraries across the country, we're realizing people are bringing these items back. They're not keeping these items. They just get busy with their life. They have things going on. They forget to renew, and the kids are starting to suffer because when they bring the items back and the kids go, "Mom, can I check out more items?" And they say, "No, you can have 3 this time, or maybe next time." So what we've decided to do is we decided to waive the fees on children's books, children's materials. So now when the family comes up and checks out the 10 items, the 20 items, if they bring the items back a day late, don't worry about it. Just go get more items. If they bring the items back 5 days late, don't worry about it. The items are back. The fees have taken care of that. So the Kids Read Free program is kids really read free. They don't worry about the fines on late fees. Well, that's what I wanted to make sure y'all heard it here first. Obviously, if somebody loses the item, they'll replace the item. And if the item is damaged, ripped up, they will replace the item. But we're very excited that we're going to help the Paris families get more library books in their hands, and they don't need to worry about that extra cost. Any questions? Did I do good? Did you guys understand how this works? I do want to thank Grayson for supporting me in looking out for the Paris families and our library advisory board. We talked about this a couple months, and we do agree that the families of Paris do need this, so they'll use their library more and not worry about the cost. So,
Thank you
Thank
so much, Mr. DeGelder. You've brought a lot of exciting programs to our library. We appreciate it.
thanks for having me. Maybe I will come back in July. I've got a couple other things to say, so see you.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are approved by a single action of the council, with such approval applicable to all items appearing on the consent agenda. A council member may request any item to be removed from the consent agenda and considered in a separate item. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The consent agenda is approved 6-0. Item number five, oh, I'm sorry. We don't have that. We just passed it. Item number 23, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of the City of Paris for a change in zoning from a one-family dwelling district, number 2, SF-2, to a two-family dwelling district, 2F, in the Willow Crest number 1 addition, Block B, Lot 6, located at 2562 Kessler Drive. LCAD 39754. Mr. Marks?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This item number 23 and 24 are essentially related to one another. Item 24, which will come before you next, was the actual application from the applicant for the rezoning of property just the other side of Kessler here. As a result of taking a look at that application, did some analysis of existing land use in the area, and the subject parcel that you see outlined here on the current SF2 zoning district is currently built as a duplex. It is currently zoned for single family and not zoned for 2F. So in keeping with existing land use patterns in the area, staff initiated with the Planning Commission's consent to rezone this existing property to make it a more cohesive district reflecting current use of the property. And so that was the reason, though, that this was initiated, because of item 24, which will come before you next. So with that, based upon the future land use guided by the city's comprehensive plan to the right on the diagram here, consistent with that use, staff and the Planning Commission are recommending approval in this zoning change from SF2 to 2F.
All right. I'll now open the public hearing and ask that anyone who wishes to come forward and speak in support or opposition of this item, please state your name and address for the record. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Any discussion? I'll hear a motion.
I move that we grant the approval of rezoning from SF2 to 2F.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 24, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of the Judy Daltry for a change in zoning from a one-family dwelling district number 2, SF2, to a two-family dwelling district 2F in the Willow Crest number 2 addition, Block A, Lot 7, located at 1315 Northeast 26th Street, LCAD 39756. Staff?
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor,
Mack?
members of council. You have before you this evening another public hearing, also conducted by the Planning Commission. On this particular request, the Planning Commission at their public hearing did receive concerns and objections to the proposed rezoning request. You'll see that the property is guided for medium density, although it's in the rear yard of the subject property as shown on the screen here. At this location, it would be contiguous to an existing 2F district. So based upon that and the proposed use, or the future guided use of the property by the comprehensive plan, staff's initial recommendation was in support of the request. However, based on new information derived at the public hearing, it brought to light additional concerns about this request. You'll see that the property currently, in this is photograph, it's a vacant lot. Although it's adjacent to and guided for the higher density 2F use, the existing dwellings along the street, all fronting on 26th Street, not on Kessler on the east-west, but on the north-south street for that one block. Those are all single-family dwellings, and that was pointed out as a concern both by the adjoining property owners expressing concern. So with that understanding, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial on this application. Staff has since changed its recommendation on the request to be in line with that of the Planning Commission. In the event that the council would still like to proceed with approval of the request this evening, you have in your packets an ordinance consistent with approval of the change. If, however, you decide to follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission on this request, staff is recommending that you direct staff in a motion to prepare a resolution consistent with denial, and that we would bring that back to you at your next meeting for approval as a part of the official record by the city on this action. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All the homes in that block are single-family homes, and there's not any duplexes when you turn back north, is my recollection correct? At
the far north end of the block where it goes into a cul-de-sac, there are some duplexes up at that end of the street. And it's just this one block before the intersection and that cul-de-sac that they are all single-family residences. And so it's the duplexes more or less bookend the street in the middle with single-family residences. So we have a little bit of a mixture of uses out in this area.
I was at the Planning and Zoning meeting, and there was a motion made to approve, and they could not even get a second. So then a motion was made to deny. All right. I will now open the public hearing and ask that anyone who wishes to come forward and speak in support or opposition of this item, please state your name and address for the record.
I'm not speaking for or against this item, but I would remind you that since the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial, you would have to approve it, you would have to do so by six votes.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Judy Daltry, and I'm the one that am petitioning to have this done. I've had rental property for 35 years. I have built some houses on that street. I've had 2 calls or 2 texts today looking for wanting to know if I had anything for rent, anything available. There's definitely a need for rental property and not very many places to build. Like there's just a huge need for nice living facilities, nice new rental properties. And I run a very tight, screen my tenants very well, keep my properties in excellent condition, and just would like for you to consider it.
Okay, any questions of Ms. Daltry? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Leah Rogers. I live directly across the street from the lot, and I'm in opposition to that, to a multifamily dwelling there. I'm not opposed to a nice single-family home there. It could be rented out, but it needs to be in continuity with the rest of the neighborhood. We've already got the duplexes bookending the neighborhood, and for the longest time, my daughter would be like, "Oh, Mom, look, there goes another police car." So with all due respect, I'm sure you do make nice homes and everything, but when you sell the property, I'm left, the rest of the neighborhood is left with whatever's there. So
I'm not planning on selling it, but
I understand.
yeah.
Okay, please speak into the phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Microphone. Thank
Yes.
you.
With the duplexes that are at the bookends, like I said, there's often police cars buzzing by. We've already had had a break-in on a vehicle. I'm just really concerned. It's the single-family homes that are there. They're really nice. I love my house. I wasn't one of the ones who was like literally running for the hills out in the country. I'm in the middle of town. I love it. And I'd like to see it kept up well. I'm all about beautifying Paris, and, I think that whole thing is awesome. So, anyway, I can't really think I covered everything. And thank y'all.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. My name's Scott Hearn. I actually own the house right next door to this property. And I think we have to keep in consideration the other people in that community that have already invested in a home, and trying to keep that continuity up and down that street. I realize there are duplexes at both ends. I would encourage Ms. Daltry to build a house on that property in order to help with the shortage of housing. But I would ask that it be a single-family home, something consistent with the area. I too do, I have real estate, and I understand the desire for multifamily, and it's simply to maximize your income. And I can respect that, all right? And there are other places to build. There are lots for sale all over Paris, Texas. There's vacant lots all over this town. Pick one of those vacant lots and build what you want to that's consistent with the neighborhood. This is not consistent with that neighborhood. Like I say, this is a single family. And keeping in mind the people that have already invested hundreds or 200s of thousands of dollars in their home, we surely don't want to disregard them. Not just me and this lady, but there's several other people on that street that would probably be opposed to it, even though they didn't take the initiative to come and speak before you. So I would ask that you keep those items in mind, and keep in mind also that the P&Z also found it inappropriate for that particular block of that road there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hearn. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or in opposition? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Any discussion, council, or questions of Mr. Mack?
Is there anybody here that's in favor of it besides Ms. Daltry, that's in the community?
Those were the only two that spoke at the public hearing at the P&Z. I don't know about this evening, though.
I'll say this. Yeah, with all due respect, that is a tough decision to make, but I will say this, and going back in my time when P&Z, the comprehensive plan was thought out very well, and I understand that there can be some exceptions to the rule, right? But in this case, it's kind of tough for me to be able to sway that justify that reasoning, right? Seeing that the whole street, for the most part, besides the cul-de-sac, is single family. My personal opinion on this is that's a tough battle to fight. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Pankaj. Anyone else? All right. I will hear a motion to deny.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Knox. There's a motion to deny this change from one-family dwelling District 2 to a two-family dwelling District 2F. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mayor, staff was also looking for recommendation with that motion to direct us to prepare findings of fact and a resolution for denial to bring back to your next meeting.
All right. Does that need to be a separate motion?
I'm reading it here, so can I make another motion, Stephanie, now? I'll make a motion to approve directing staff to prepare a resolution with findings of fact consistent with denial to be brought back for final action by the council.
All right. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay. You will return with a resolution for our next meeting, correct?
Yes, Mayor.
All right. Item number 25, discuss, conduct a public hearing and act on an ordinance concerning the petition of the Paris Economic Development Corporation for a change in zoning from an agricultural district A to a heavy industrial district H in the city of Paris, block 309, lot 20, and PT of 21, located at Southwest Loop 286, LCAD 18671 and 18672. Mr. Mack?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. The current request before you is to change the zoning of these properties from agriculture to industrial to prepare the site to be ready for location of a new industrial business at the site. There is no immediate current proposal or request from the particular industrial developer, but based on the ownership and the marketing, this is leading the way in preparing the site to be ready for that. And so with that, and the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission, it is recommended that you approve the request this evening.
Thank you. I will now open the public hearing and ask that anyone who wishes to come forward and speak in support or opposition of this item, please state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I will now close the public hearing. Any discussion, council?
Me and Ms. Stone, I think, and Mayor know a little bit about the information on this land, but this is nothing more than a clerical thing that we have to have so that Maureen and her board decides to do something as far as industrial, any kind of company coming in or any of that kind of thing. It's just more of a housekeeping deal so everything's ready for them whenever they have a project to arise, correct?
That's correct.
Any questions? All right, I'll hear a motion.
Make a
Motion
motion.
to zone from agricultural district A to heavy industrial district H.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hughes. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 26, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of the Paris Economic Development Corporation for a change in zoning from a one-family dwelling district, number 2, SF2, to a heavy industrial district, HI, in the city of Paris, Block 325, lots 4 and 6, located at 1130 Northwest 30th Street, LCAD 18830, and 30th Northwest, LCAD 18835. Staff?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Again, request by Paris Economic Development Corporation for the same purposes, essentially to prepare this site for development. The previous action was for the Gene Stallings Business Park. This request before you this evening is for the Northwest Industrial Park, and these lands currently owned by PEDC are adjacent to that park, and we're looking at roughly 6 acres associated with the 2 parcels before you. Again, these are zoned not agricultural, but SF2, and in this case, proposed request is to rezone them to the same heavy industrial district, consistent with those uses adjacent to these properties in the Northwest Industrial Park. So again, no specific development proposed for the site, attempting to have these prepared and ready at such time as they have interest in that site. And the Planning Commission as well as staff are in favor of recommending approval at this time.
Thank you. I will now open the public hearing and ask that anyone who wishes to come forward and speak in support or opposition of this item, please state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Any discussion, staff, council? It feels like we work for them.
It's true.
All right. I'll hear a motion.
I move that we grant approval of the rezoning from SF2 to HI.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 27, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of Benny Brown for a change in zoning from a neighborhood service district, NS, to a neighborhood service district, NS, with a specific use permit, SUP, for a single-family residence in the city of Paris, Block 311, lot front PT 16, located at 3660 Clarksville Street, LCAD 18693. Mr. Mack?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The item before you this evening is for a special use permit. It's a little misleading that it's not an actual zoning change. We're not changing the zoning district, simply a special use permit based upon recent changes by the city this year on the neighborhood service district uses. This proposed use is a permitted special use in the district. The prior use was essentially a home occupation, if you will. There was a business use of the property for a pet grooming in the picture in the lower portion of this slide. That business has since discontinued now for a number of years. I believe it's located elsewhere in the community. The folks that are living there right now are Mr. and Mrs. Richard Deverell, and they are the proposed purchasers. Actually, it's the father of the husband and wife that are living there. Benny Brown's the seller. These folks are the buyers. They're currently occupying the site. They do not intend to use this for business purposes. And so really what this came down to is the city is not providing them with garbage pickup, and we're charging them commercial water rates. And so they'd really like to have garbage service, which I can appreciate, having living in a home now in the community, and to reflect their rates as a residential user of the property. So staff is recommending, as is the Planning Commission, that the special use permit be issued for this project. We do have one condition recommended with that approval, and that is that the SUP shall expire and terminate with a change in occupancy, converting the residence accessory structure back to business use unless approved by amendment to the specific or the special use permit. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I will now open the public hearing and ask that anyone who wishes to come forward and speak in support or opposition of this item, please state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Any discussion?
I do have a quick question. So just to sum it up, and just to make sure I'm thinking of this correctly, the new folks that are trying to buy this, they're not going to have a business back there. And so in order to make it possible, you have to have an SUP to make sure that they are not using it and actually living there, correct?
It's a little bit odd in the fact that it was a house previously lived in. It just had that additional business on the site. And so in order to legitimize the request on the water billing and the trash pickup, it needs to be changed over to a residential account. The zoning requirements are requiring the special use permit.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
That's really, and there's no change proposed to the site at all.
Now, if the new owner decides, hey, I'm going to put in a hair salon or whatever, then they would have to come back and submit another application, if you will?
Or the SUP for strictly residential use of the property expires and it would go back to a commercial property according to the taxing rolls and the city's water billing account.
The current owners of the home were here at the P&Z meeting, and I believe they want a family member to be able to occupy this, what was the former pet grooming business.
The folks that were at the hearing, P&Z, were actually the buyers.
Oh, yeah, they're the buyers.
The current owner.
They haven't closed yet?
No, they're waiting on this action to be
Okay.
completed, and then they will close on the purchase. But the actual owner did sign the application for the request.
Okay.
Why doesn't it just go to single family? Why is it not rezoned single family if they're not going to use it as a business anymore?
It's a location that's guided in the future for office development.
Oh, okay.
So it is at near an intersection or quadrant of the city that was conducive
Okay.
for business, and there was a business operating. The property, even though it's not shown in the photo here, to the top picture would be to the right, is strictly a single-family home ownership use. And so I think this is looking down the road in the future for the community.
Okay.
Which is why and they didn't request to change back to single-family, which would have been a different request, and I'm not sure we'd have the same recommendation at that point.
Okay.
All right. Any more discussion? I'll hear a motion.
I make a motion to provide the special use permit, subject to the following condition. The SUP shall expire and terminate with a change in occupancy, converting the residence accessory structure back to a business use unless approved by amendment to the SUP.
A second, please.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. The motion carries 6-0. Item number 28, discuss and act on a resolution confirming the appointment of Robert Vine as the Assistant City Manager for the City of Paris. Mr. Path?
Yeah, City Council, as part of the fiscal year 21-22 budget, you authorized the creation of a new Assistant City Manager position to assist me in the carrying out of my duties for the city. And as we have seen, we have grown to the point operation-wise that we have the needed, we have a need for the help there in order to carry out the operation in a more efficient and effective manner. And so Sandy Colliard and I went to work advertising. We had over 43 applications. We interviewed many of those individuals. I'm pleased to present to you tonight Robert Vine as my selection for the Assistant City Manager. Mr. Vine is currently the Deputy City Manager and Chief of Police in Dayton, Texas. He has 8 years of management experience and 23 years of municipal law enforcement experience. He's currently completing his Texas Certified Public Manager program with Stephen F. Austin University and has taken the FBI Leadership Trilogy course, LEADA, as part of his law enforcement background. He has displayed a great depth of knowledge and understanding that matches the job description as I have written it. And I'm very impressed with this individual, both in experience as well as his character. I've spoken to him many, many times. I've spoken with his current officials over him, spoken with many of his former bosses, as well as other chiefs of police in areas he's worked under. And all around, they've said he is a man of ethics and integrity and professionalism, which is what I'm seeking in this position. I believe he possesses the right combination of potential experience, attitude, and energy, and professionalism, civility for what I want in this position. And so with that, he is here tonight, and he will give an opportunity for you to ask him questions, speak with him, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Vine. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Vine.
Mayor, Council, good evening. It's good to see some of you again. Had a wonderful opportunity to speak with some of you today. I definitely appreciate that opportunity, so thank you. I'm here for any questions, or I have something I could read if you would like.
Go ahead.
First of all, again, thank you for having me be here tonight. It's definitely an honor to be recommended, for this position with the City of Paris. For the past 24 years, like City Manager Grayson said, I have been in municipal service, primarily in law enforcement. The last 3 years, I have been a Deputy City Manager for the City of Dayton, Texas, which is near Houston. And I've really found that that's been more of my passion, with leading people, mentoring people, and it all boils down to communication and relationships. Treating your employees right, treating your citizens right, and taking the time to build those relationships. I consider myself a servant leader, and I adhere to the SHINE principles of service, humility, integrity, nobility, and excellence. On the bottom of my email, it says, do the right thing at the right time for the right reasons. I preach that to my officers, to my employees every day. I preach that to myself. So if it is the will, the pleasure of the council, I look forward to bringing that approach to serve the citizens of Paris, and then also serving the employees as well.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Vine or discussion?
I do have a quick question. So just to clarify and just to make sure, if this goes through, this would be our fourth employee that the City Council gets a chance to employ and make sure that the contracts are all set and everything correct. I just want to make sure.
This would not be a contract employee. This position would be under me as well. It would just be the three positions you would oversee, and I would supervise this position.
And that was a question I had earlier, and I meant to ask you earlier, but I scratched my head and making sure before I knew what was going on. So, great.
Okay.
I've read Mr. Vine's information and talked to Grayson extensively about his background, and I have a belief that if we hire city managers, we hire assistant city managers to manage and do the job, and I hold a lot of respect for Grayson's opinion, and Mr. Vine, barring everybody voting you in today, you've got my vote, and I'm happy to have you here. I'm glad you chose Paris. I'm glad you put your application in. We need good, stellar help whenever we're putting together an administration to help Grayson, and glad to have you here, and thank you for putting in.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I too wholly support you, Grayson, in your selection. Mr. Vine, I don't know you from Adam. Got to meet with you a couple of minutes this afternoon. It was a nice meeting, but I'm not qualified. But this man right there, he is qualified, and he has selected some wonderful folks to join our team here, and I certainly support you as his selection in this position.
Go ahead, please, ladies first.
I appreciate the time that you took out with me today and answered some questions for me. It's always good to get to know someone, the source.
Yes, ma'am.
And taking the time out and me learning more about you and what you stand for and what you can bring to the city of Paris, because I'm all about Paris. You know, that's the citizens in this community. I feel like you would be a good instrument for the city, helping with Grayson. I respect Grayson's thoughts and opinions on people, and Grayson is a great man. I just love him. But we just want to make sure that Paris is our priority and our citizens in our community. And I feel like after speaking with you today, that you can do that.
Thank you.
I'll take a moment and just say, we've had a good discussion earlier today, and I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. I think that it's very important to have a good character come into our community and help lead. It takes a village, and it takes every bit of help that we can get. And so having that discussion with you, seeing a lot more of your background, your experiences, what you've gone through, your transparency, how you function as an individual and as a leader, I sincerely appreciate that. And so with that, I fully back you, and I back what our city manager has been working hard for. He's brought in a great team, and I think that we're at a great point in this community where we can move forward and continue to work hard together. So with that, I definitely am in favor. Please.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Mr. Vine, I do also appreciate you taking the time to speak with me this morning.
Yes, sir.
To answer a lot of questions that I had over some items that were out there. I too support Grayson on a lot of decisions that he make. I mean, the hires that he's had previously have been great.
Mm-hmm.
But on this instance, I had questions, and I won't just get into them here.
Mm-hmm.
But I do take liberty to say that I appreciate you having that conversation with me.
Yes,
and it's always important to talk to the sources, like you mentioned there, Councilman Starr. Your character was important, and you said a lot of things that just eased my mind on some things. So I too will support Grayson on this. I think everything will work itself out.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I had the privilege this morning of having an extended conversation with the mayor of Dayton, and she was quite a supporter of yours. She, I think, would take you back.
I'm a fan of hers as well, yes.
She spoke very eloquently about your integrity and your faith, and I rest easy with that, because between that and our city manager, his discernment on all of his hires have paid off, and so I support.
Thank you.
And you got to make him look good.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And I can honestly say that one of the reasons I'm choosing Paris and even considered Paris was this man here.
You're not the first director.
He is a wonderful recruiter,
that.
even before he talked to me. Just to watch I've watched several council meetings, and to see his character, and he talks about his faith, and to see his leadership was very appealing. Very much so.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right. I will hear a motion to act on the resolution confirming the appointment of Robert Vine as the Assistant City Manager for the City of Paris.
I move that we approve the resolution to appoint Robert Vine as the Assistant City Manager.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 6-0. May I be the first to congratulate you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, City Council. Thank you.
Item number 29, discuss and act on an ordinance granting a vehicle for hire license to David L. Thompson, doing business as Lone Star Cab Company. Pursuant to Section 124 of the Paris City Charter, passage of this ordinance requires 5 affirmative votes. Staff, you have a presentation?
Yes, Mr. Thompson has been operating a cab company for nearly 18 years here in Paris. He has continuously operated a cab company, and he's provided us with his application, his insurance, and asking that we renew his application, renew his license, and staff is asking you to do that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis.
Thank
Any
you.
discussion? I will hear a motion.
Make a motion to grant David L. Thompson, DBA Lone Star Cab Company, a vehicle for hire license.
A second, please.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Well, we've got it. Council, are you ready for a short break and then do the Charter Review Committee, or you want to?
Let's go.
Move on.
I'm good, yeah.
Okay. Item number 30, receive a report from the 2021 Charter Review Commission and provide direction to staff. Tonight, we will hear a presentation from Chairperson Alex Putnam regarding the 2021 Charter Review Commission final report. Ms. Putnam, thank you for being here, and I see several of your commission members as well. We thank you all.
Thank you, Council, for having me tonight. I am Alex Putnam, and on behalf of the Charter Review Commission, I'm very honored to be here tonight to present our report to the suggested charter amendments. First, sincerest thanks to our members of our Charter Review Committee. If I may now please recognize those individuals, and if you're here, please stand. Reeves Hayter, our Vice Chair, Mickey Allen, Brenda Cherry, Connie Dodd, Jessica Holtman, Stacy Liddell, James Mitchell, Taisley Scroggin, Matthew Coyle, Lydia Fitzgerald, David House, Linda Capp, Chad Lindsay, Kenneth Webb, and Sybil Bills, who is our alternate. Thank you. I also want to thank Grayson Path, Stephanie Harris, Mark Anderson, and Janice Ellis. As a citizen, I could not be more impressed with this leadership team who works so hard for our city. You answered all of our questions the committee may have had regarding government procedures, titles, explanation of our departments, the history of Paris and our elections, and any other concern that arose. And a huge thanks to Don Edmonds, our terrific consultant, who helped to organize our discussions, each of the 6 meetings we had together, so that we would stay on task and could complete a thorough study of each section. Don drove from Tyler, arrived always 1 hour early, and stayed as long as any of our members needed him for extra questions. Many times I called him at home for further clarification, and Don made this an option to all of us and encouraged us to do so. He is a true professional, and we are grateful for his service. And finally, thank you to you, our council, for letting us have a charter review. And for hiring Don, because we really needed him. The 15-member commission was an excellent representation of our town. We had some differing opinions on what changes should be made to the charter, but remained as objective as possible and mindful that any change could rewrite our history. We recognized the importance of this process. We discussed everything from council qualifications, term limits, the city's power to borrow money, petitions and referendums, and most impactful, to introduce a mayoral election at large. We are most proud that we have eliminated much of the outdated language of our charter. These proposed revisions will modernize the current charter, abbreviating it in places and trim away the out-of-date provisions. If these changes are approved, our charter language would be reduced by 15%, making it useful to the public, to the city council, and to our city officials. For example, we all joked in one of our meetings that our commission would be celebrated by the town as the heroes to suggest deleting Section 83, the Department of Taxation. In the explanatory note, you find that Paris does not have a Department of Taxation, and it ignores the existence of the Lamar County Appraisal District that we all know very well. We also advanced the document to eliminate gender-specific references. Mayor Portugal is the first woman mayor of Paris, and the language of our current charter does not reflect this. The mayoral at-large election was the most intriguing topic. There are approximately 350 home rule cities in Texas. According to the latest survey, 94% of mayors and council manager cities are elected at large. The other 6% are elected by the colleagues on the city council, as it is in the Paris case. Our commission feels that we might join the other 94%. A mayor elected by all of the people would be a unifying voice for our town. One member who is a leading voice in Paris civil rights said how she wishes she could cast her vote for the mayor who shared her views, rather than it be selected by the council. We agree that we would all like to have this opportunity. Our commission thought it would also aid in the continuity of our leadership for the council because the mayor would serve a 2-year term instead of just one. We are educated of Paris's history and the federal decree signed by Judge William Wayne Justice that was placed 50 years ago. Stephanie and Grayson explained to us that this would be a very heavy lift to reverse this action, but it did not discourage our committee from our feelings and discussion. Previous charter reviews have brought up the mayoral election discussion, but none have come before you, the council, to ask that this consideration be decided by our voters. The committee did not want to leave this question unanswered and kick the can down the road for the next charter review to debate. Therefore, our committee voted by majority to include an at-large mayor. But now we leave it in your hands. Don said at his very first meeting, in his opening statement, how important home rule cities are and our local governments are because we have the power to change the destiny of Paris. In large metroplexes with huge populations, not to mention special interest and stifling bureaucracies, it is very difficult to change. But Paris, with its size, its flexibility, and its forward thinking, can. That is unique and special. In conclusion, I have to say I've never been more proud to be an American. That my thoughts, along with 14 other men and women, can impact change in our government. We are so lucky to live in Paris, Texas, USA. We value our democracy and our freedoms. Thank you for entrusting us to make these recommendations and for the honor of chairing this effort. I look forward to hearing your decisions. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a couple of comments.
Sure.
I will say this has been a very interesting situation, and I'm very grateful to be a part of this council, and I'll tell you this, not to sit here and brag about this council, but man, I will take that opportunity any day. I've never once thought that a council would work this cohesively, and we all have differing views. I mean, each one of us have a differing view, but it is so amazing to see us come together as a team and to have a charter review committee that is so diverse, full of leaders from yesterday and leaders currently that will lead in the future. I am very proud to see that. The things that you have come up with, I'm fascinated, and I know that many of our fellow citizens share the same sentiment. So I appreciate that fully. And I know that was a very hard thing to go through, but for those of you who served on that, thank you. I know that was fairly difficult, I'm sure, and very arduous debates, but thank you for taking that time. I just wanted to express my gratitude to you all for volunteering and doing that, and doing that public service. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Timeline-wise, by the way, thank the committee and Alex and everybody that put your time, because y'all spent a lot of time on this. I know you did, and I appreciate everyone getting involved and putting it together. And if we did vote it in, what is the timeline when this would take in effect? The new I guess, the new terms, the new mayor coming in? What is the timeline on all that? Just wondering.
Sure, yes.
I also, excuse me,
yes.
Alex, I'm sorry. There has been a late development from a legal standpoint, Ms. Harris. Should we address that before?
Well, it has to do with timelines.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
relevant to Mr. Pilgrim's question.
Yeah, stand by, please, Alex.
All right. I think that you are all aware that we are subject to a 1976 court order in a lawsuit where the city was sued over voting rights and minority representation on the council. In that order, it set up the 7 single-member districts and provided that the mayor be elected from the membership of the council. When I read that order, my thoughts were that this would have to get approval of the federal district court. But I wanted a second opinion, so we requested that second opinion from Monty Akers and Timothy Dunn at the Messer Law Firm, and they concur that that would have to be done to get approval from the district court. I talked with Mr. Dunn today, and he gave me an idea of what would have to be filed. It would have to be a motion in the existing 1976 case. We would have to prove a number of things, including that things are different and than they were now demographically, and that having a mayor at large would not dilute minority voting for the position of mayor. We've got to figure out, because this is so old, we have to figure out who remain of the plaintiffs in order to serve them with this motion. That could take a little bit of time because we have to retrieve the file from the federal district court clerk. We're looking at least 6 months to a year once it's filed to get it through. It may be more than a year, but he predicted 6 months to a year to get it through the court system. So, you're not looking at being able to do that this year. Probably not have it in place for a May 2023 election. So that's just a legality that we're going to have to go through if the council wishes to pursue this option.
Any questions of Ms. Harris? Okay, thank you. That needed to be updated in case some of the council had not seen that latest email today. Ms. Putnam? Yes. Or Mr. Path, either, if you have questions of either one or comments?
Well, of course I do. Ms. Putnam, thank you so much for the outstanding job you did. I've heard all kinds of wonderful things about you, and I remember you when you were a baby because my son was the same age as you. You went to high school together, and you've just really turned into a lovely leader in our community. So I want to thank you for that, and as well as the rest of your committee. When we got started on this, because I was the one that put it on the agenda to start this thing to begin with, and when we started the whole thing, it kind of got off to a little bit of a rough start. I think, Mayor, you're fully aware of this, and the rest of the council members probably remember this as well. And it was because there wasn't anything in the charter review that set up who can serve, who cannot serve, so it was a little bit clunky to begin with. Were you all ever able to address any of that and put that in the charter? Who would be allowed to serve, who would not be allowed to serve? Any kind of guidance on setting up the charter review, perhaps for the future?
I'm sorry, we did not have a conversation about how to set up the charter review in the future. Okay. From our understanding, it was a new appointment for us all, and with Don's recommendations of broadening the sample of our charter, so we had more sense of our opinions. So, do you have anything to add, Grayson? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. I had a question about council members' attendance, and your recommendation was that if they miss 3 consecutive meetings, I don't know what the procedure you suggested, but that is tricky to me because not any of this council, but future councils that would be concerned about. If a member missed 3 meetings, came back for 1, then missed 2 or 3, that's erratic attendance. And I wondered if the council could consider a percentage of meetings, or say miss 3 meetings within a 3-month period. That would be 50% of the time. And I don't think that's anything we have to do today. We could table this and give everybody a chance, a more time to study this.
Sure.
We got this in our agenda packet on Thursday, and
In answer to your question,
Yeah.
There is a mandatory language that says, while in office, a council member fails to attend 3 consecutive regular meetings without being excused by the council. So there is, and that was not in the charter before. So, also with the mayoral at-large election, an 8th member, they could vote in if there is an absent council member. So there's another person to.
would that be a vote to just bring it to their attention, or?
Only in the case of an absentee by one of the 7 districts.
No, it would be in case of a tie.
Oh, in case of a tie,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Okay. Any more questions or direction to staff on the Charter Review Committee? Do we want to table it and give everybody a chance for the next January 10th meeting, correct?
I have a short presentation to give.
Oh,
too, real
okay.
quick. Sorry,
Yeah.
Just real quick, just to hit a few things for you tonight. Again, on behalf of the staff, we'd like to thank the commission. They did an excellent job working together, debating the issues, and so we're very pleased working with all the members there, as well as working with Mr. Edmonds. And he did an excellent job. He worked very hard, very thorough, very responsive. He cranked out material very quickly in a short time period, so that was very helpful. As well, Ms. Putnam, we thank you for her leadership in this process through here. But to kind of jump into some of the edits here, but again, I would echo the mayor's thoughts here. To cut to that point here, we would encourage you all to either, you can discuss it tonight, but we would not encourage you to act tonight overall. You can make decisions on pieces of it if you like, but we would encourage you to take some time to look this over. But I'll just hit some deadlines here, some dates here. Obviously, if we were to hit the May 2020 ballot, we do have to have a decision by January 24th in order to hit our procedural requirements. We have to produce a booklet that is sent out to all the registered voters in Paris, both in English and in Spanish. So we need time to hit that process, as well as prepare the ballot language. And we've approached Monty Akers, I believe, and he's going to help us with preparing the appropriate ballot language. Because part of that, we have to prepare a proper explanatory notes, looking with what Mr. Edmonds and the CRC have produced here. But as well, we have to work legally about, because we can't campaign for edits. We have to express a neutral explanation for the process there. So working with some legal counsel will be helpful for that. We would, though, obviously we have January 24th, but we would encourage you to try to hit the 10th if you can for decisions there. Again, it gives us a little bit more time because we will be hitting some crunch period given the number of edits here. Real quickly, as you saw in the report there, we sent it out about a couple weeks ago through email. Again, as you're reading it, red is items to be deleted, and green is items to be added, and black is items that don't change. That's the original language there. So as you're reading that, red is going, green is adding, and black is staying. So, but just to quickly highlight some of the articles here, and in case you do want to ask questions tonight, Mr. Edmonds is here with us. Members of the CRC are here, as well as staff. We can talk through some of the reasoning why. But again, we would encourage you not to act tonight, but take some more time. We've got another month or so for the next meeting there. But again, Article 1, no recommended edits. Article 2, no recommended edits. Article 3, has been discussed, that was the mayor at large as one edit here. That was, in short, that was to be voted on by electorate at large. Eighth member of the council, again, given the 1976 order there, we had to have 7 districts. So this would be an eighth member on top of that. Given as an even number, be non-voting, but except in cases of ties. Then the mayor pro tem, we had some language there, but the mayor pro tem would still be able to vote. So we don't want to disenfranchise the mayor pro tem as a district from being able to vote. In case they had to step in for the mayor when the mayor leaves. So the mayor pro tem would be allowed to vote if he or she had to step in as in the mayor role. As has been discussed, we do have some issues with that we'd have to work through. Staff, we're not encouraging you to not proceed with the mayor at large, but we're neutral, and so we're trying to advise you about the steps there. Also, we cannot help what happened in 1976 and the court order that happened there. It does seem it was quite justified. If you read the depositions, it was quite justified for the decision that came down. So that's part of our history, and but also we have to work under that. But obviously, in order to change that, there's a process of the court we have to go through. So it is going to be a time-sensitive process there. On that, if you were to say approve or recommend edits for ballot for May 2022, except for that one, while we study it, while we work through it, we cannot have another vote on the charter for another 2 years. That's just part of our charter. And so if we were to make edits in May 2022, it would be May of 2024 before we could bring that item back to the ballot. So that's something we should be thinking about as you consider the mayor at large as an option there. You can also move the whole thing to November of this year. So we don't know if we can get it done by that point, but again, if you want this to be considered, but you want it to be done soon, you might hold on all the edits until November, and then we do them all at one time then, or even May of 2023, depending if we can get through the court. That's still unknown. So but there are options there, but again, as staff, we're not encouraging you to either yes or no for the item, but we just wanted to prepare you for the requirements of that. As well as Mayor Portugal mentioned, there is an attendance requirement mentioned. We added it in the charter. We also had some cleanup edits in there to reflect the current duties of my position, as well as the retirement program TMRS. We had some outdated language for our pension program that doesn't exist anymore. Article 4 did some cleanup language to reflect the duties I currently have that I use as a manager. Article 5 was some cleanup language to reflect the current budget practices, as well as remove some outdated language. As we went through here working with Mr. Anderson, there's some things that don't apply. There's actually, in the section there's a reference to an agency that we're supposed to report to that doesn't exist anymore. And so that we don't need to have that language in the charter anymore. So we made those kind of edits in those articles. Article 6 is mostly a complete rewrite. This is for our long-term indebtedness. Working with bond counsel, state law addresses much of long-term indebtedness. So our charter was battling state law and really kind of handcuffing us in places. And so our legal counsel wrote Article 6 for us. It's a lot more streamlined. Basically, it refers to the chart. It refers to the state law, which that's what we always recommend. If state law has stepped in and addressed something, we recommend going that direction there. So I think it's very clean language there. Article 7, some cleanup language reflecting current practices and removing some outdated language on the finance director, his duties. He doesn't assess taxes anymore. That's some from ages ago. The LCAD does that for us, as well as some surety coverage for our employees. And also there too, under that Article 7 there, we made some cleanup language. This is something that we brought up a year or so ago when we did our previous budget. We had to take out some COs in order to buy some equipment long term, because our current charter says if you're going to take out a loan with a local bank, it has to be paid in 1 year. I mean, we want to do our business in parish if we can, but under that charter section there, I could not do business in Paris and get long-term indebtedness. So we had to get a CO in order to buy the equipment there. So this cleans that up so we can actually get a loan that lasts longer than a year for our equipment. Article 8, again, clean up some language because we have LCAD now. Article 9, no edits. Article 10 was to clarify what's appropriate for initiative and referendum. Again, given we have elected representative for council, there are some functions that need to remain with the city council as your authority. Let's see here. Article 11, Article 11 was a major this is a complete rewrite. State law has stepped in and trumped some of our ability to do franchises. And so it was, as Mr. Edmond pointed out, it was just way too cumbersome to try to go in and just splice and edits along the way. So we just did a complete rewrite of Article 11, which as Ms. Putnam pointed out, this cut out a lot of dead weight language in our charter. And so this was much more streamlined. Again, it refers to state law. Again, state law over the years has stepped in on some of these things. And so we might as well just, when we're working with third-party legal counsel, they know state laws, work with them. And lastly, Article 12 was some language there about salary garnishment that we need to add in our payroll, which we are doing currently. And then also some cleanup language about gender and so forth. But that's a quick run through. We can answer any questions you have tonight, myself, Mr. Edmond, the CRC members, if you want to discuss anything tonight. Otherwise, if you'd like to take the next month to think more about these edits, we'll come back to January 10th and discuss them more thoroughly. So,
all right. Do I
just had one
questions?
thing. One, you mean to tell me, Gene, you don't want to assess taxes? You sure about that? I concur with you, Mayor Portugal, and I think that it's best, just my opinion, to take another deep dive. And I anticipate that if we have any questions, we could reach out to any of our commission to be able to address any confusion or any entanglements that we have.
Yeah.
Good.
Do I?
I just want to thank the Charter Review Committee, Alex, and your team. Y'all did a wonderful job. And again, what Mayor Pankers said about the diversity of our City Charter Review Committee, we got to get something from everybody from all walks of life. So I appreciate the time and diligence that you guys put into our charter review. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Edmonds and Ms. Putnam and the Charter Review Commission, I definitely want to take this opportunity to thank you for your service to the City of Paris. It's greatly appreciated, and we thank you for taking the time to do so. So we appreciate you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Portugal and members of the council, I want to briefly thank you for being able to be involved with this project. I've been involved with these types of projects for 20 some odd years now. And I can honestly say, in all those years and a great number of these types of projects, that this project was the smoothest, easiest, cleanest that I've ever had to do with. Now, there were three reasons for that. Number one was the leadership of Alex Putnam and the co-leadership of Reeves Hayter and the 13 other members of this commission. It was easy because it was there was a certain cordiality about the whole proposition, and the attitude and the atmosphere with this commission was always not who needs to be right or wrong, but what would be best for this city in the future. The third and very important reason for this being such a wonderful project is, of course, the professional staff that you folks have at hand. And I, particularly in my part, was working for four of these folks: City Manager Path, City Clerk Ellis, and City Attorney Harris. These are really, really talented people. And I should mention Gene Washington. These are really first-class people that you should be proud of, and I'm sure you are proud of. But take it from me, I've seen a lot of these projects, and the professional help from these folks was it just made it a pleasure. So I want to finally say again, thanks for the opportunity for me to be here and to do what I did. And to enjoy the process. Thank you very much. Any questions at all?
Edmonds. I think your expertise made it go so smoothly too. Mentioning something from the committee that we were supposed to report to a state agency that no longer exists and hasn't for a number of years. As great as our staff is, I'm not sure they would have known that. in particular, to remove that. And actually, you've removed pages of a rather cumbersome charter. So thank you for being all cleaned up.
Great pleasure for me.
Any more comments? All right. Is there a consensus that we table this to the January 10th meeting?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right. I'll hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to table this agenda item till the next meeting, January 10th, I believe, of 2022.
Yeah,
Yep.
2022.
Yes, ma'am.
Second?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. I hear a motion to table and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 6-0. I didn't even need that. We just we hear a consensus of that. All right. I do want to ask council, do you want to take a short break here, have a snack, and let staff rest a minute, or keep going?
I'm good.
I'm good to keep going. I mean, anyone else?
I'm good.
Okay, well, we will keep going to item number 31. Discuss and act on an ordinance establishing a construction speed zone on US 82 Loop 286 in the corporate limits of the city of Paris, Lamar County, Texas, during the Texas Department of Transportation's construction project from US 271 exit ramp to the FM 79 entrance ramp, providing a repealer clause, a savings clause, a severability clause, a penalty clause, and an effective date.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. This issue on December 7th, the City of Paris Traffic Commission considered this issue and voted 4-0 to recommend that City Council consider enacting a temporary ordinance reducing the speed limit in the construction zone from 60 to 50 miles per hour. And this area is going to be on the Northwest Loop, 500 block of Northwest Loop in front of Campbell Soup, west to the intersection of Highway 79, where they're going to do a concrete overlay of both sides of the loop. And they just want to reduce the speed 10 miles per hour for the safety of the workers and the safety of the drivers.
Any questions of staff? I also see our district engineer, Mr. Perry, if you have any questions of him. We'll send all the complaints to.
I'll say this happens to be in my district. I really appreciate you guys putting this forward, and I'm definitely in support because we want to preserve the safety of those that are working out there. But man, we've seen a lot of wrecks out there as of lately. It's always been like that, it seems like. But yeah, man, we need to stay safe. So.
And it's expected to begin end of December, 1st of January, and last about 8 to 9 months. So it'll be for a while.
Steep.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? All right, I'll hear a motion.
I move that we approve the ordinance amending the traffic control map, establishing a temporary speed limit in the construction area on the Northwest Loop of 286.
Thank you.
Second.
A second. Thank you, Ms. Knox. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 32, discuss and act on a resolution declaring the City of Paris's intent to provide 1% of the needed funding for the Northeast Loop 286 Txdot improvement project. Mr. Path?
Tonight, we also have with us Jay Hodge and Curtis Finley as part of the Sulphur River Regional Mobility Authority, as well as Dan Perry for Txdot here. So I'll defer to them in a moment here.
And Mr. Jay Hodge?
Yes.
Oh.
And so, yeah, I think I covered him. So, but yeah. So tonight, the request is I think you're all aware, Txdot has been working on a large project to replace much of the loop around the community, and this is a massive project. Obviously, we are one community in Texas, and among many who are looking for funding from the state. So Txdot and CIRMA approached the city here about a month or so ago, and in order to try to make our application more enticing for funding, they're looking at focusing in on the section of roadway from FM 195 going eastbound on the loop down to Pine Mill Road. And so that part of the project, as part of the master project, would replace the overpass at FM 195, build a new overpass at North Collegiate. It would obviously be rebuilding the entire roadway between FM 195 and Pine Mill. It would be adding frontage roads on both sides, which would mean eliminating the median between there, and then pushing the road together, and then which also would eliminate the crossovers as well. So, as part of this project, some statistics here. We have seen a significant number of crashes in this area. This is probably the busiest stretch of roadway in the entire county on a daily basis. People travel that road to and from work, shopping, and so forth. It's a very busy part of our city, let alone the county. They do believe that this work would reduce crashes by 65%, which would be significant, and so for our community. It is currently through 90% schematic drawing and 30% construction design, so we still have some time here. The project is estimated at $90 million on total cost. They've approached the county and the city asking for a 1% match to that. It's a 1% from the county, 1% from the city, which again, these are rough estimates at this point. And we're talking 2, 3, 4 years down the road before this actually is let for bid, is what we're foreseeing here. But obviously they need to apply for funding from Austin January. And so before you tonight is a resolution let's see here, the intent to provide 1% funding. Now, obviously, as the city council today, you cannot bind the future council for funding this, but obviously by passing a resolution, it is our intent that we're going to do that. Now, to do that logistically, we would probably have to seek out a certificate of obligation in order to fund $900,000. But as staff, we strongly recommend this. It'd be a major improvement to our community, to our business sector, and retail in that community there for safety. So we would strongly recommend this. But I will turn over to in your package. You have some images here from Txdot that kind of shows you some of the estimated, some of the proposed work here. But I turn over to Mr. Hodge if he'd like to have some comments, and then Mr. Perry. So,
good evening. My name is Jay Hodge. I'm the chair of the Sulphur River Regional Mobility Authority. We are a political subdivision of the state of Texas, organized under the Texas Transportation Code. The purpose of our board is to pursue assistance, secure funding for, and to ensure completion of various mobility projects in our area. We currently represent Lamar County, Delta County, Hunt County, and Fannin County. We have Mr. Holland Harper here tonight, Mr. Dan Perry from Txdot, as well as Curtis Finley. So all of them have been a huge help so far in gaining traction on this project. Earlier this morning, the Commissioners Court listened to us, and they did pass a resolution in support of this as well. So we hope that you consider this and vote in favor of it as well. Any questions? Mayor, City Council.
I have one question. So
yes, sir.
I've attended a lot of the meetings that Txdot has put forth for this initiative for the entirety of the loop. I know that can take some time. The question I have is the other sections of the loop that are not represented in this particular agenda item, would we be asked, would you guys come back to council for some funding for that too? Because that's a budgetary item that I'm trying to kind of grasp in my head to understand, hey, how is this going to go in the future?
Well, that's always a possibility. The way we got to this point was we said, where can we make the biggest bang for our buck in the most congested area with, I don't know if it's got the most amount of accidents, but it's certainly got a whole lot of accidents. And be great for Paris and Lamar County and for the region. As of now, none of these segments around the loop are currently funded, so we're trying our hand at getting this one.
The second question I have is there anything further aside from this agenda item that we as the city council or individuals can do to help push this narrative forward, because we all know that we need safety on our loop. That's the major thoroughfare within this community. We have got to be careful and put that as an initiative. So I'm just curious, is there anything else that we can do? Letters
Absolutely. That much as we saw with the kind of the community outreach and the strong community surge of support we saw with the US 82 West and 271 South initiatives, those letters from council showing support for the project, communication with our state elected officials, anything you can do to play the project up to those that are listening will help us make our case. As Mr. Hodge says, we compete with everybody in the state, and so we need to make our case that this project in Paris, Texas is important and needs to be funded.
There was a great meeting, too many people to name. Judge Bell was there, and of course Grayson and Mr. Hodges' group. Can you share with the council how many vehicles go through that intersection at Collegiate a day, please?
Yes, ma'am. Pre-COVID, it was a little over 33,000 cars a day. A significant portion of those are trucks, semis. I'm sure we've bounced back from those pre-COVID numbers, and it's US 82 between I-30 and I-35. It's 271 between the Texas coast and Louisiana Gulf Coast and Chicago. It's also the road you go down to get to Tamales. It's the road you go down to get to Toyota Paris. You know, it's locally very important, but Paris is I've said this before, Paris is a spoke of a wheel, and there's a lot of things that all come together and happen right there. And getting rid of that stoplight, putting in an overpass, getting the local traffic onto frontage roads that are slower speed, to take the driveways in and out of the businesses, and letting the people that are just zooming on through, let them zoom through and get on by.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perry.
And I'd also like to add that the participation from the city and the county does not guarantee that the funds are secured, but it certainly helps. And if everything goes according to plan, construction would begin as soon as possibly 2026, and it could be about a 30-month project from start to finish. Any further questions?
All right.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. I will hear a motion to approve the resolution.
Make a motion to approve the resolution declaring the city of Paris's intent to provide 1% of the needed funding for the Northeast Loop 286 Txdot improvement project.
Thank you, Mr. Pilgrim. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 33, discuss and act on a resolution approving a loan from the City of Paris to the Paris Economic Development Corporation in the amount of $2.5 million. Mr. Path?
Yes, earlier in 2021, then Mayor Dr. Steve Clifford proposed to the City Council as well as the EDC that we come together as the City Council and the EDC Board to in the concept of loaning the PDC some funding. The purpose of this was to, one, pay off some EDC notes that they currently have, as well as give the EDC a lower interest rate, which would save taxpayers some money, as well as give the city a higher interest rate than what we're currently making on the taxpayers' money as invested as it is. And so it should be a win for the city, for the taxpayers both ways, through what they're paying through EDC to pay off debt, as well as what we're receiving for our money sitting there in the bank. So working with staff, as well as EDC staff and legal counsel, we have drafted a $2.5 million note. This does have some language in here that obviously we are not a lending institute by nature, but since the EDC is part of our function here, this seemed like a valid route for the city council and the city to take here, working with EDC in order to give them some operational funds to do what they're doing here. But we have a $2.5 million note. The first 3 years will be at an interest rate of 2.14%. 4%, which is, again, is greater than what we're currently receiving and less than what they are currently paying. It would be for 10 year. It'd be a 10-year note with a 15-year amortization, which means there'd be a balloon payment at year 10. So they'd be making monthly payments between now and that period, and then at the end of 10 years, they would then make a large payment in order to pay the note off at that time. I wrote in here in my description here, I would calculate the rate. There was a negotiation there how to establish that rate here. We wanted something that was transparent, but also protected the taxpayers' funding there, but also give both parties a way to see how this is. How the sausage is grinded, and so I want to figure out how to get the rate there. So every 3 years we would recalculate the rate as things change. So with that, we do have Miss Hammond here tonight. Would you like to say anything tonight, Maureen? Or yep. So we recommend approval. So.
Mayor, members of council, briefly, I just want to say this was a very long process. A lot of work went into it. Chase Coleman, Casey Gaynor, legal counsel, worked with Grayson, Stephanie, and Jean, and just want to say I do think this is truly a win-win for council, the city, and the EDC, as well as the citizens. And it's symbolic of the growing partnership we have between the EDC and council. So just want to thank you for considering it, and want to publicly acknowledge city staff and Grayson for all of the hard work that went into this. So,
thank you, Ms. Hammond. Any discussion?
I should just make one caution. I just remember this now. Obviously, this would obviously eat away at our current reserve. Working with Mr. Anderson, we do have the ability to maintain our minimum reserve by doing this. But obviously, our ability to handle large projects that come out of nowhere are significantly depleted by doing this. But we feel comfortable by giving this amount. We do have a little bit left over to where if we have a significant expense come forward, not in the term of millions of dollars, but we can make that happen. So there's always that little caution there, but still with that, we'd recommend approval.
I had just a couple of things. Gene, in Mr. Path, is there a forecast or an anticipation of when we would feel comfortable with that reserve, having enough reserves there in case if something did come up? Is there kind of a forecast of, hey, it might take 3 years, 4 years?
For it to be anything significant, it would take 2 to 3 years, probably minimum, for us to get up to a significant number. We usually gain a little bit every year because, manager usually holds us to the line, and sometimes we underspend, and so we gain a little bit that way. But
Got you. The only other thing I have to say is this. Before I'd gotten in council, I was on the EDC as the treasurer. And I'll just say a big kudos and a big thank you to Dr. Clifford and the council for showing that goodwill gesture, that good faith gesture, just to say, hey, this is a new time now. EDC and the council is working together in concert, and that is awesome. So that's really huge, and I think that this would be a great way to show that initiative and show that we stand behind our industry in the recruitment of furthering our industrial ties here in this community.
Further questions or comments? All right, I'll hear a motion.
Make a motion to approve the resolution for the loan from the City of Paris to the Paris Economic Development Corporation in the amount of $2.5 million.
Thank you, Mr. Pilgrim. A second?
Second.
Thank you.
Excuse me, could you include in your motion and authorize the mayor to sign the note?
Make a motion for the amendment to the motion for the mayor to sign the note.
I'll second that amendment.
Thank you. I'll write you a check. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 34, convene into executive session pursuant to section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with a third person. I would ask if Mr. Vine and his wife would stay. I don't think we'll be in there long. We'd like to meet you. The time is 7:02 PM, and the city council is convening into executive session. 10 p.m., and the city council is reconvened into open session. Ms. Harris, my notes say there's no action to be taken, but we do need to approve.
You do need to approve, yes.
Okay. I'll call for a motion on the discussion we had.
I make a motion that we approve the closing of the land transaction discussed during the executive session under the terms of the purchase and the sale agreements.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes 6-0. Item number 36, consider and approve future events for city council and/or city staff pursuant to resolution number 2004-081. Any items? I do want to remind council, we have a redistricting workshop on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. right here. And item number 37, adjournment. I'll hear a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. And those opposed say no. Thank you.